My first instance is listen. Listen to the people, whether it is employee, whether it is customer, whether it is parts of the department. So first and the foremost thing is to listen to the people, because building credit frameworks.
You have made credit possible for so many small entrepreneurs, people who might have never had access otherwise. So, what does legacy mean to you now? And how do you hope your work has changed the lives you have touched along? Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another power packed episode of FaceTime with Leaders, brought to you by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. Now, today's guest is not just a leader, he is a builder, a shaper of systems, people, and billion rupees portfolios. He has spent 25 years making real moves in mortgage finance, MSME lending, risk advisory, and digital transformation, all while managing teams of over 2,500 people across the country. He has scaled businesses 10x, led strategy at some of India's biggest finance houses, and continues to reimagine what inclusive banking can look like in Bharat. Please join me in welcoming the powerhouse himself, Mr. Pankaj Sharma, to FaceTime with Leaders.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome. It's truly a pleasure to be here, and I look forward for sharing not just milestones but also the mindset, mistakes, and moments of the concepts I have gone through in the last 25 years.
Absolutely. Mr. Sharma has been a top performer at ICICI, a task leadership awardee at AU Small Finance Bank, and has unlocked massive growth in regions from Rajasthan to Maharashtra. Whether you are building credit models, scaling ops, or just trying to figure out what risk really means in business, trust me, this episode is for you. So let's get started. Mr. Sharma, we have heard the titles and milestones, but every leader has a backstory. So could you take us through your journey in your own words? What were some of the key moments that shaped your path?
Thank you for that generous introduction. If I look back, my journey has been of evolution and belief. I started in trenches of mortgaging finance at ICICI, where I learned that numbers are important, but trust is everything. From there, each step, whether it was scaling MSME lending at India Bulls, transforming credit models at IIFL, or lending task forces at AU Small Finance Bank, brought me a learning curve. I have had privilege of building businesses from ground up, managing teams across states and cultures. What kept me going was a single help belief that finance at its best can be deeply human. It can also always driven by ideas, building frameworks that don't just reduce default but increase dignity.
So, Mr. Sharma, there is something really inspiring about the way you embraced every chapter of your journey, whether it was building systems or managing people across geographies. And continuing our conversation, whether it was setting up credit frameworks, launching new markets, or designing digital lending platforms, you have had been handed a blank canvas more than once.
Yeah.
When that happens, what's your instinctive approach? What goes through your mind when you are asked to build something that doesn't exist yet, but everyone's counting on you to get it right?
Look, whenever I am given a blank canvas, my first instance is listen. Listen to the people, whether it is employee, whether it is customer, whether it is all other parts of the department. So first and the foremost thing is to listen to the people, because building credit frameworks or new markets entries isn't just strategy, it's anthropology. I recall when I was tasked with setting up a digital lending platform with no understanding risk behavior, cash flow patterns, and trust. So I assembled a team that wasn't just technically sound but emotionally intelligent. We co created solutions, structures, and piloted interestingly and iteratively and built something scalable.
Absolutely, Mr. Sharma. The way you navigated uncertainty with calm and clarity, it says a lot about why teams rally behind your vision. So that ability to build from scratch comes with a deep sense of ownership. And I imagine it also means learning to live with risk early on. Whether at AU, IIFL, or India Bulls, you have always been at the center of high stakes decisions.
Yeah.
Has your view of risk changed over the years,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to guiding your teams through it?
Definitely, it has changed a lot.
Okay.
So, risk is early days felt like something to be avoided. Today, I see it as a conversation between opportunity and responsibility. At AU and India Bulls, was part of decisions where crores were at stake. But risk was never a gamble. It was a calculated narrative. What's changed is that I now trust not just data, but also patterns, people, and major decisions. What's the downside? We can survive, and what's the upside worth chasing?
You said, Mr. Sharma, that perspective really reframes risk, not as fear, but as a form of trust in process, people, and instinct. It's powerful to hear how you pass that mindset down to your teams. Incredible. So, moving ahead with the next question, and also that brings me to something a little deeper. You have made credit possible for so many small entrepreneurs, people who might have never had access otherwise. So, what does legacy mean to you now? And how do you hope your work has changed the lives you have touched along the way?
Legacy to me is invisible impact. It is very invisible, but it impacts every part of our life. So it's not what's written in reports, but what stays in people's lives long after we leave. I still remember an entrepreneur in rural Rajasthan who got a micro loan years ago. She came back later just to repay, but to invite me to her daughter's college inauguration. That's the power of success. It rewrites stories. What I value most is having enabled thousands like her not just to borrow but to believe. My legacy, I hope, is one of enabling dignity through finance. The loans, one family, one future at a time.
That's beautiful, Mr. Sharma. That's really beautiful. It's clear that your legacy isn't just measured in numbers, it's in livelihood, in dignity, and in hope. That kind of impact stays long after the spreadsheets.
It has to be in livelihood. The numbers are just numbers.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you, Mr. Sharma. Absolutely. Fantastic work you have done. Okay, so Hearing about the impact you have made is truly moving. And it naturally makes me wonder what's next for you. I mean, at this stage in your journey, what are you most excited about building or contributing to in the future? And do you see yourself stepping into more strategic board level roles? Whether your decades of experience can shape decisions at a much larger scale?
Excites me now is impact at scale. So I see myself increasingly stepping into role where I can influence governance, mentor emerging leaders, and shape ESG, align growth strategies. I am keen to work with boards, advisory councils, and institutions that are rethinking, influencing, and sustainability and innovation. I have also started engaging with startups, especially those in Bharat focus fintech, to share lessons and learn anew. The fire is very much alive, and so is the responsibility to pass the torch forward.
Absolutely amazing to see that even with such an accomplished journey, you are still looking ahead with the same fire. Great, Mr. Sharma. So, with the kind of scale and responsibility you have managed, I'm sure you have seen how businesses isn't just about profit anymore. It's about purpose, and you also mentioned ESG. So, in your experience, how important has ESG become in shaping lending practices, risk frameworks, and long term business decisions, especially when you are serving such a diverse and often underserved customer base?
ESG is no longer optional, uh, especially in lending business. When you serve underserved communities, S and G become your anchors. At AU, for instance, we saw firsthand how governance structure can reduce NPAs and how socially aligned lending can increase repayment. ESG principles now shape everything from credit appraisal to portfolio management, but more than compliance, it's about conscience. Are we empowering green enterprises? Are we protecting vulnerable borrowers from digital overtake? These are the questions ESG pushes you to ask. I see it not as a checklist, but as a compass.
Absolutely. That insight really brings out the why behind ESG, not as a checkbox, but as a compass for sustainable, responsible leadership. And coming from you, it holds even more weight. All right. So, Mr. Sharma, before we wrap up, one last question to you. As someone who has recently been part of Directors Institute, what has your experience been like?
Joining with the Directors Institute was a game changer because I was drawn to curriculum's depth, especially in ESG literacy, boardroom protocols, and global governance frameworks. What stood out was the peer group, a rich network of leaders, each beginning a different lens. The sessions helped me reflect not just as an executive, but as a steward of long term value. I now approach strategy with a more structured board level mindset, thinking beyond P&L to purpose and policy.
That's incredibly encouraging to hear, Mr. Sharma. Thank you for sharing that so openly. So, let me tell you, Mr. Sharma, this conversation has been nothing short of inspiring. From your early journey to building systems that serve thousands, from navigating risk to redefining leadership, your story is a true masterclass is in vision, resilience, and grounded success. Thank you for opening up and sharing so generously with us today.
Thank you once again for having me. It's been a privilege to reflect, share, and hopefully inspire. I believe leadership is less about titles and more about truth. And as we continue to build, may we do so with clarity, courage, and care.
Absolutely, absolutely, Mr. Sharma. Thank you once again for joining in. And to our audience, whether you are a finance professional, a leader in the making, or someone simply curious about what real leadership looks like, we hope today's episode gave you the insight and inspiration to think bigger, lead better, and build with purpose. This is FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute, where we bring you voices that matters, stories that stay with you, and leadership that moves the needle. Until next time, keep learning, keep leading. Thank you so much.